Happy Fitness Friday!
Happy Fitness Friday, everybody! Today we are going to talk about high-intensity interval training and how to organize it to maximize the benefits.
Indeed, we are. Some HIIT.
Yes.
I am Dr. Ayla Donlin.
And I'm Emily Sopo.
And we are your Myzone Master Trainers. We're both certified group exercise instructors and personal trainers. We use Myzone with our own workouts and with our clients.
Yep.
Emily and I hold master's degrees in kinesiology, Emily in exercise science, myself in sport and exercise psychology. I also hold a doctoral degree in educational leadership. So we really enjoy collaborating and bringing you great information every Friday for Fitness Friday.
Yes, and it's great to be back. We missed you guys last week, but hopefully you enjoyed the awesome broadcast from Kevin and the crew at Bannatyne, York. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, scroll down on Facebook so you can catch their broadcast because it was great.
Yes, it was. Shout out. Hey, there's Kev right there.
Hey, Kev.
Hey, Kev, you guys did an awesome job last week. That was really fun to watch, and I really appreciated the visual of what it looks like to be in a small group training with the Myzone and giving people targets to hit as far as observing their intensity. That was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
let's
right.
get into it.
Let's do this.
Okay, as I'm sure that you are all aware, high intensity interval training, which we will refer to as HIIT going forward, is probably, I'd say, the most popular format of training these days. And so we wanted to dissect that a little bit and talk about how you can best organize your HIIT training to maximize the benefits. So we're going to start out by telling you a few of the benefits. We're only going to mention a few, and then we're going to get into how you can organize, and then we'll show you a little sample of a training of what a HIIT interval would look like, and then we'll also talk about some ways that we use HIIT training for both our personal workouts and then in the workouts that we're coaching and training.
Yes, and actually before we do, because that's such a great topic, I mean, everybody wants to know about high-intensity interval training. If you wouldn't mind, guys, leave a comment in the comment section with the name of someone who wants to learn more about high-intensity interval training. So let's share this information out. You can share the knowledge with your pals.
Exactly, and I was just going to say, speaking of sharing, if you know someone who does a lot of interval training, hit them up real quick. Mention their name in the comments section so that they can tune into this.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few of the benefits of high-intensity interval training. One of them is that, and research has demonstrated this, that it improves our maximal oxygen uptake, and that is our ability to take in oxygen, get it to our working muscles, and then the ability of our working muscles to extract the oxygen and convert it into fuel. So it's really cool because when we are increasing our maximal oxygen uptake, we're increasing our ability to work at higher intensities for a longer period of time before we fatigue. And so interval training allows us, sometimes that is known as VO2 Max. Thanks, Coach B.
Yep.
So maximal oxygen uptake, sometimes you'll see it abbreviated or the acronym VO2 Max, or I guess it's just the way of, what would we call that?
That's just
the label.
It is.
We'll just call it that. So sometimes that's how you'll see it referred to. And when we're working at these higher intensities during high intensity interval training, then we're pushing that capacity up. So again, we're only hitting that for a short amount of time because, as you know, high intensity interval training, we're doing bouts of work. So we have a work phase where we're at a higher intensity, and then we have bouts of recovery where we're working at low or moderate intensity. So we're going back and forth and holding the higher durations for anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds to maybe up to about 2 minutes or so. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And VO2 max, or maximal oxygen uptake, really is the measure of cardiorespiratory fitness.
Exactly.
So it's really like what you want to improve. And then also it's linked to all-cause mortality, and so those with higher maximal oxygen uptake tend to live longer and healthier lives.
Exactly, and a little fun fact about what the research is showing is that we can improve our maximal oxygen uptake to a greater extent when we do high intensity interval training than when we do continuous work. So if we're just working at the same intensity for an extended period of time, then we're not as likely to improve or increase our maximal oxygen uptake or our aerobic fitness.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right, the next benefit is higher EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also called Afterburn. We did a whole broadcast about this probably several months ago now, so you can check it out on the Myzone Moves YouTube channel. But what this EPOC is the amount of calories that we are burning post-exercise. So before you start exercise, you might be at a certain level, and then you obviously increase your caloric expenditure during the workout. For high intensity interval training, it's often higher than it would be for steady state exercise. But then after your workout, you are still burning more calories than you were before. And I know that I could have gone this way so that you guys could, I know we're backwards for you, but you can kind of get the idea that you are reaping the benefit of a higher caloric expenditure post-workout. And that's really great if you have, weight maintenance goals, and it's a good thing. So that's definitely a benefit of high intensity interval training. And then the third and last benefit that we'll talk about is time saving. Yes. We'll talk about how to organize your HIIT in just a moment, but before we do, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing high intensity interval training to reap the benefits. So 20 to 30 minutes is usually all we're able to handle if we're working at the appropriate intensities.
Exactly.
That means you're not spending hours at the gym.
Yes, and you've heard us talk a lot in the past about the intensity duration relationship of exercise, that as the intensity of our exercise goes up, then the duration can come down and we can actually reap a lot of the same or even more benefits, because you heard us just mention that with HIIT training you're actually able to increase your maximal oxygen uptake even more. So it might be that you're doing more work in less time, which is a really cool thing.
Yes, and Andra, thank you for the question. Yes, high intensity interval training absolutely increases the number of mitochondria and the size of mitochondria. That's the powerhouse of your cells. So overall, we have an increase in mitochondrial density, and that's what contributes to, or part of what contributes to, increased maximal oxygen uptake.
Exactly, because those babies are like the little furnace. They're taking in oxygen and converting it into fuel, and like, there you go, muscles. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna unpack how you can organize your high intensity interval training with the framework of the FIT principle: frequency, intensity, time, and type. And you've heard us talk about that in the past as well. So in terms of frequency, because high intensity interval training is such a high intense and very demanding format, both physiologically and psychologically, because it is so demanding, it's recommended that you do it at maximum 2 to 3 times per week. And if you're doing HIIT training the way that it's intended to, that's going to be plenty, because you are really pushing your limits during the work phase of HIIT training. And so from, again, a physiological and a psychological standpoint, your body and your mind need the time to recover before you go again. So bottom line, frequency 2 to 3 times per week.
Yeah, and if we think about, and we'll come back to this when we talk about the duration of your workouts, when we think about the ACSM and World Health Organization recommendations, they recommend that you spend 75 minutes per week for health benefits. So you can go above and beyond that for fitness benefits, but 75 minutes per week of high intensity exercise, cardiorespiratory exercise. So twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, you're getting very close to the total recommendation for your week.
Exactly, yeah, quick math, 3 times a week, 25 minutes a session, boom, you've met that 75-minute recommendation.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's talk about intensity, which is how hard we are working. For high intensity interval training, we should be close to maximal effort, or even at maximal effort, which is gonna be tough. And I have to admit to you, I have never really hit 100% of my maximal estimated heart rate in the Myzone system doing high intensity interval training. I'm getting up into the upper yellow and early red. And that's kind of where I like to be, and that's a good goal for us. So yellow and red when we're working with the Myzone system.
Yes, and what you might notice is that the longer the duration of your high intensity interval training, the more your heart rate starts to come up at the end. So maybe you're hitting, mid reds by the end during the work phase, and then there's the recovery portion as well.
Yes, absolutely. And on the rate of perceived exertion scale, which we've talked about many times before in previous broadcasts, you should be between an 8 and a 10 remember 10 is max, so an 8, a 9, and a 10, that's intense. That feels hard. You shouldn't be able to say a whole lot as you're exercising. It's hard.
Yes. So if I'm organizing my HIIT training, what should I aim for during the work phase, and what should I aim for during the recovery phase as far as intensity goes?
Yes. For the work phase, we recommend that you aim for the yellow or the red zone. And then for the recovery phase, that's really going to vary. And we'll talk about how we can kind of change the durations of our push and our recovery. That's going to play a big role. So as a general goal, what you can do is say, I want to hit green on my recovery.
Right.
However, like this morning, I was doing some high intensity interval training, 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. There was no way I was going to recover down into that level.
Right.
So it really depends.
Yes.
But as a general goal, especially when you're starting out, we recommend that you aim for the green zone during your recovery. That'll give you a little bit more energy to push again. Because remember, you're not trying to remain at the same level. You want that recovery to be able to get back up. Sorry, Ayla.
It's okay.
To be able to get back up into those higher intensity zones.
Exactly. And I love that you guys are sharing this out. Continue to do that. That is
Thank
wonderful. So we've talked about frequency, we've talked about intensity. Now it's time to get into the first T, which is time or duration. And we're going to break that down in two ways. The total duration of your HIIT training, like one acute bout, and we're also going to talk about the duration of each interval, each high intensity interval. So total duration, you already heard Emily mention, somewhere around 20 to 30 minutes. And if you are pushing the intensities that Emily just talked about, that's going to be about maximum.
Yeah.
And that's not including a warm up and a cool down on either side. So your total duration might be 40 to 45 minutes with a warm up and a cool down. But of the interval training, total duration of the workout, 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when you're organizing your intervals, they're going to be broken into a work phase and a recovery phase that we've been mentioning. And I already referred to in the work phase, you're maybe going to be doing 15 seconds up to 2 minutes of work. Keep in mind that you are targeting a maximal effort during this. So you really need to build up a level of fitness before you can work your way to that 2-minute push. Or maybe you're going to do it progressively, where you're progressively increasing the intensity during that 2-minute work phase. And then in the recovery phase, you can decide if you want to, how you want to organize it in terms of the ratio of work to recovery. And something that we'll recommend is that your work phase initially is shorter than your recovery phase. Maybe as much as a ratio of 1 to 4. So you're pushing for a duration that is shorter than the recovery, and you can start to then gradually change that ratio. So maybe you're going to start with a 15-second push and a 60-second recovery. That'd be a 1 to 4 work to recovery ratio. And then as your fitness improves, maybe you're going to push for 30 seconds during the work phase, and then recover for 60 seconds. That'd be a 1 to 2 ratio. And then eventually you can work your way to where your work phase is longer than your recovery phase. Maybe you'll have a 60-second push and a 15-second recovery.
Woo-hoo.
So a 4 to 1 work to recovery ratio. And again, you'll want to gradually progress over time. I'd say stick with each ratio for about 2, maybe 3 weeks at a time, and then slowly and conservatively start to make the changes and gradually progress your way to a 4 to 1 work to recovery ratio.
Yes. I have a question for you, Ayla, because I have my own thoughts about this, but I'd love to know what you think about a beginner, someone who really hasn't done high intensity interval training before. If they push for a minute and they are just gassed, but are they going to recover for 4 minutes? What would you recommend in terms of their goal for recovery?
Yeah, my recommendation if you're a beginner would be to start with short work phases.
Okay.
So I wouldn't start someone on a 1-minute push.
Okay.
I'd start with a 15 to 20 second push, knowing that the intention is to go all out. And then I would make the recovery, again, a ratio of probably about 4 times as long as the work. So if you're pushing for, again, 15 seconds, I'd have you recover for a minute, and then if you were ready to go again, we'd do it again. But if you needed a little bit longer of a recovery, usually what I would target for my participants is that when they're supposed to push, they're pushing. And so if they need a little bit longer of a recovery, then we would take it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's how I would organize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, on to type?
on to type.
Okay.
The second T
Yes,
of the FIT framework.
Second T, type of exercise or mode of exercise. You can really do high intensity interval training with any type of exercise for the most part, with cardio or resistance training. If you're doing resistance training, typically high intensity interval training is best performed with muscular endurance types of exercises. And so we're going to be doing more repetitions, maybe a little bit lighter of weight, and then we're making sure that we're recovering. So I know that we'll demonstrate, Ayla will demonstrate here in a second, but an example would be like jump squats for 30 seconds, and then maybe you're just standing still for 30 seconds for your recovery, or maybe you're doing more isometric exercise like a plank hold on your recovery to let your heart rate slowly decrease.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, you can pick whatever exercise suits your fancy and do high intensity interval training with it.
Yes, you can. And there is a blog about this that will be put up on the myzone.org website, and you can check out the sample high intensity interval workout that is a part of the blog. And it's organized into 30-30s and 60-60s. So pushing for 30 seconds, recovering for 30 seconds, pushing for 60 seconds, recovering for 60 seconds. So that's a 1-to-1 work to recovery ratio. So that'd be for someone who was more intermediate or advanced. But you can change the organization however you want for your body and your workout. Did we have a question come through?
Yes, and I can't fully read it because now it's disappearing. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but I think I'm going to answer it based on what I think you asked.
Okay, cool.
So I think that you gave us an actual heart rate, like a beats per minute, and I prefer that we steer clear of giving specific beats per minute ranges because it's going to differ for everybody.
Exactly.
And really what Myzone does is provide us with these zones that are relative to us. So as we mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, we recommend that you aim for the yellow or the red zone during the push phase. And then as you become more fit, and I think this is where the second part of the question was getting at, as you become more fit, if you're working at the same workload, yes, it would be more difficult to get your heart rate up to that same level, but what's nice is that then you'd be more fit, so you could work harder. So you might not see like, oh, I was in the yellow zone during my pushes and now I'm only in the green zone, because you're going to be bumping up the workload just naturally.
Exactly.
And then on the opposite side of that, for the recovery phase, yes, as you become more fit, it becomes easier to recover more quickly.
Yes.
And so it's really going to depend on the duration of your recovery and how hard you're pushing. We'd have to probably break it down on an individual basis, but yes, you would see a faster recovery with increased fitness.
Nice.
Thank you.
Em, high five on that.
I don't know if I answered the question you
handled.
asked,
That
but
was
there we
great.
go. Oh, good. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Something else that I wanted to mention before I get into a little bit of a demo, and I'm going to do a 60-60 interval. So I'm going to be pushing for 60 seconds and then recovering for 60 seconds. I'm going to do a little kettlebell squat press for my work phase, and then I'm going to do a plank hold for my recovery phase. But something that I wanted to just mention in terms of organizing your HIIT training, you can organize it by time, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating today, a 60-60, or you can organize it by target zone. So you could tell people, I want you to push until you touch yellow, and then we're going to recover until you hit green. So instead of the interval being time-based, it's zone-based. But what you might run into with that is if you have different fitness levels, it's going to take people differing amounts of time to get to yellow or to get down to green. So just keep that in mind. That method might be best for like one-on-one training with a client, because otherwise you have to take the various fitness levels. Even though the effort will be relative, it'll take people different amounts of time to get into those various intensity levels. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, shall we demo?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get my heart rate ready. So I'm gonna show you guys where I am right now. I'm gonna do it this way because it's bigger. So you can see I am a very cool, calm, and collected 39%. So what does that put me at? About 80 beats per minute, because I'm getting excited and getting ready to go. So I'm gonna be pushing for 1 minute and then recovering for 1 minute. And Emily, will you time me?
Whoa, yes.
Whoa. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see where I get in the minute, and then we'll go from there. So give me a little love, you guys.
Oh yeah, we need some likes, some thumbs ups. I'm just gonna hold this to the side so you guys can see it. And Ayla, go ahead and start it on up. You guys saw we started her at 8:20:32. And I know it's backwards, my apologies. That's just the nature of a Facebook Live. Good job, Ayla. She's heading into the blue zone. Woo! Looking good, great form.
Thank you.
Yee-hee-hee. Nice work. She is heading into the green zone. There it is.
Come on through. You can make a little cameo in our little Fitness Friday.
We're gonna have a nice crowd going through. Good job, Ayla. You're looking good. You've got about 20 seconds left.
We have a tourist group.
We're at 75%. Come on, Ayla, you can do it. Yee-hoo. 10 seconds. Good job, good job. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and recover. Woo. Nice work. So Ayla got just up into the yellow zone. She touched, oh, she's still touching yellow, 80%. Keep in mind, folks, that this was her first push that she would have done, and it is oftentimes hard to get your heart rate up into the yellow and the red on the first push. So this, we would assume that she would on the next push get a little higher up. Nice work, Ayla. You are halfway through.
Starting from not even the gray zone.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and you really want to be starting from a higher zone where you just warmed up. Nice work. Seeing it slowly come down. Good job. You got about 15 seconds to go. Yee-hoo-hoo. You're looking good. You're at about 67%.
Okay.
Are you gonna do more rounds?
No, I think that's good. They get
That's
the
good.
idea, I think,
Yeah. Yep. And time.
Right on.
So what we saw with Ayla, nice work.
Thanks.
What we saw with Ayla was she hit yellow for just a split second, or a couple seconds, and then recovered because she's doing a Mitochondria. Yeah, the recovery position was simply adding an exercise into the recovery. You don't have to add an exercise. You can just stand or walk. Totally up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then she recovered down into the blue zone. And so because I would assume she didn't get up as high as she would in the future pushes, she also recovered quite a bit more than she would in the future pushes.
Right, because if you're doing a warm-up, you're probably going to start your high-intensity interval in greenish. So again, if I would have started in green and had a minute to go, I probably could have gotten into the upper yellow or maybe even touched the red. But that just gives you an idea of the organization. 60 seconds on, 60 seconds to recover. You can recover actively or passively, your choice depending on what your goals are. And you'll see in the sample in the blog on myzone.org that the first 5 minutes are organized into 30-30 intervals, so you'd be doing 5 of them. And then the second 5 minutes are organized into 60-60 intervals, so you'd only do a total of about 2.5 of those before you would recover. So depending on the duration of your work and your recovery is how you can determine how many total number of intervals that you're going to be doing throughout your workout.
Yes, and one thing I want to note for fitness professionals out there, keep in mind what we just saw with Ayla, with her not quite getting up into the goal zones that we had set, right? So if you were using zone match, or just even if you're coaching and cueing your clients, it's important to keep in mind that they might not quite get up into those higher zones on their very first push or their first push or two. So you can cue them that it's going to be a gradual increase, most likely.
Yes. Let's do a quick review before we sign off. In terms of the FIT framework, organizing your high intensity interval training, frequency, bottom line, 2 to 3 days per week, 2 to 3 days per week max of high intensity interval training.
Intensity should be yellow or red. Recovery, yellow or red on the push phase. On the recovery phase, it's gonna really depend. A nice goal is green.
Beautiful. Time or duration, total 20 to 30 minutes of interval training with a warm up and a cool down on either side. And then your work to recovery ratio, start out with maybe a 4-to-1 or a 1-to-4 work to recovery ratio, and then gradually work your way to a 4-to-1 work to recovery ratio.
Yes, and then type or modality, whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah, depending on your fitness goals, whatever you want.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, be sure to share this out with your friends so that everybody can understand how to organize their high intensity interval training to get the most out of it. And then what we'd also love is if you use the hashtags MyZoneMoves and Effort Rewarded when you're posting your HIIT workouts to social media.
Yes, and don't forget you can catch the replays of all of our Fitness Friday episodes on the MyZone Moves YouTube channel, and we also have a podcast under that name, MyZone Moves Podcast. You can catch that on iTunes and Google Play.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week, and keep moving forward. Bye, everybody.
Have a great weekend.